Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Jelena Tašić Pizzolato. I'm the Innovation Director at Loomish, a Swiss investment management firm, and I'm very happy to welcome you to yet another episode of Sustainable After Interview series. As we know, the year 2020 was supposed to be the year of fashion sustainability. However, we're now facing the pandemic. That's why we're joining forces with different investors, entrepreneurs, and brands from around the world in this interview series, discussing how COVID-19 crisis could actually be a catalyst for change in fashion. So jumping straight into our conversation, I'm very happy to introduce our guest for today. So we have Shameek Ghosh. He is the CEO and co-founder of TrusTrace. Welcome, Shameek.
Thank you.
Shameek is a fashion tech and food tech entrepreneur, and he's tapping both industries with product traceability. We're going to hear more about that in a minute. I'm also very happy to have with us today Giorgia Roversi from YOOX Net-a-Porter. She's the Director of Sustainability and Inclusion with a very long career in e-commerce. Welcome, Giorgia.
Thank you, Jelena. Hi, everyone.
Hi. So both of you have had very interesting careers so far that brought you where you're now. So Shameek, maybe starting from you, could you share a little bit more about your professional background and what brought you here?
Sure. Yeah. Originally, I'm from India, and my career started predominantly in the IT industry, IT services. In fact, all the four co-founders of TrusTrace, we used to work for a very large Indian IT services company. And that's where we were actually delivering digital solutions for large corporates at scale, globally, companies like ABB, like Volvo, and all of these kind of companies. And then we come from India, so we could see the ill effects of especially water pollution and land pollution coming in from the textile industry. And we started a project. It was initially TrusTrace was a hobby project that we started that, hey, we should try to do something to improve the environment that we are coming from. Many of the rivers and ponds that we were taking bath were not usable. So that is when the hobby project for TrusTrace got started. But very soon it started taking a very different proportion. The brands that we were approaching, they were saying that, hey, we want more data. How do I deal with my supply chain in this case kind of a thing? So that is just a hobby project there. So yeah, it has been we came from a very different background. We wanted it to be our support to the community, but it has now taken our 100% of our time and more than 100% of our energies.
Right. So do you still have a part of the company in India, or you moved everything to Sweden?
No, we have a significant part of the company in India. So we are headquartered in Sweden, in Stockholm, but we have our Asia Center in India, in southern part of India, a city called Coimbatore, which also happens to be a very big textile hub there.
Right. So you'll tell us very shortly about what exactly TrusTrace is able to do. I just now quickly move to Giorgia. So Giorgia, you have had a great international career so far in, let's say, everything customer focused, which I know is a big passion of yours. So could you tell us a little bit more about your background?
Sure. I've been with YOOX Net-a-Porter for quite, very long time, I would say. As I started actually back in 2006, so it's almost 15 years now, and I've been in a way growing with the company, and we are celebrating 20 years this June. I really started, as you were saying, mainly focus on from customer service to customer experience, which is absolutely key passion of mine. And then moved into the post-merger integration when we merged with the Net-a-Porter group, and moved into business transformation and data insights. And then actually right after maternity, I went into sustainability, which is in a way, to me, probably the biggest transformation that most of retailers and brands need to face now. So in a way, everything that I've been doing in the previous years is really supporting me a lot now in really making sure that this area of focus that I have now is really leading into a transformation of for the group. And with all the challenges, of course, that a big transformation has. But I think, and I think one important point is that the customer piece that is, as you were saying, part of my background, and is quite key because is as we are seeing, is really the transformation is also mainly, if you want to make sure that we do deliver versus the new expectation of our customers.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a very big challenge. I can imagine both internally and externally. So we are going to, I think that we have quite a few sustainability managers that that are part of our network. So later on, we're going to dig deeper into actually how you are influencing across the organization for that change. I would now like to kind of get deeper into our discussion and ask Shameek about TrusTrace. So what does it do? So what does the solution do, and how does it relate to impact? How does it relate to sustainability?
Sure. Yeah, happy to say that. So we are a product traceability and a transparency platform. It is a digital platform where we are using technologies such as artificial intelligence, blockchain, and IoT for two things: to ensure material integrity in a product, and second is to ensure responsible production is happening in the product. So for example, if a shirt like this is there, we as a brand or a retailer, you want to be very sure if you're claiming that is organic cotton, it is really organic cotton. So that material integrity is ensured in our platform. We do various algorithms on mass balance, transaction recording, and all that to ensure that. And we capture this right from the source, which can be a farm or a factory, to the end product there. We also ensure that the factories where this production is happening, they follow the environmental, social, and ethical standards that is ensured that is defined by the retailer or the brand there, because that is where you are ensuring that the complete supply chain is visible, it is transparent, and you are also able to pass this data to your end customer. So we have taken a very data-driven approach to this whole aspect of sustainability and production processes there. Currently, we work with around 30 odd brands across Europe, and we have got more than 5,000 suppliers in the platform. They are spread across right from New Zealand, Asia, in China, Vietnam, Bangladesh, all the hotspots of production, to Eastern Europe, Southern Europe, and also to Americas.
Wow. Yeah. And how, if I can ask, how big your team is?
We are around 31 people, including the 4 co-founders, and it is spread between, as I mentioned earlier, between Sweden and India. But we also have got partners, or we have got small country representations in France and Germany as of now.
I see. And you mentioned 30 plus brands that you work with. Is there someone that you could single out and name someone that you work with?
Yeah, I think most of the brands are quite well known. So we work with, we started in Sweden for sure, and that has helped us to build the platform very, very fast. So we work very, very closely with brands like Filippa K, Houdini, Fjallraven, then Otto Group in Germany. Zalando has been a supporter of us. They are not our direct customers, but many of the brands that we work with, they sell through Zalando, and we help them in sharing the complete product details with Zalando. Then in France, we work with likes of Decathlon, Cezanne, and all that kind of companies. So we have been very, very fortunate that way, that lot of sustainability leaders in their space, they have worked with us, shared their knowledge very, very openly with us, kind of a thing, and all that there.
Thank you very much, Shameek. As we are now setting the background, so Giorgia, maybe a very simple question for you, but I think just that we are all on the common ground. So YOOX Net-a-Porter. So if you could tell us briefly what it is now, well, so kind of, as you said, you've been growing with the company, you've seen it in many of its phases. So what does YOOX Net-a-Porter encompass now? And how what you do now relates to impact in general?
Sure. YOOX Net-a-Porter, I would say, I mean, we define ourselves as the world leader in luxury and fashion, serving actually more than 4 million customers and working with a lot of brand partners around the world. So in a way, let's say we have a quite unique position, also considering the ecosystem that we have, that has both, like, let's say, two stores on focusing on in season, that is Net-a-Porter and Mr. Porter. We have YOOX and the Outlet focusing mainly on off season. We have our online flagship store that where we create online stores for the most famous brands around the world. So it's really a unique ecosystem, reaching a lot of different stakeholders. And in a way, we do have sustainability in our DNA, as we have started back in 2009 with quite big programs. For example, thinking of YOOX, the Eco Box, the Oxygen, that was one of the very first sustainable edit that we worked on, and so on. So, I mean, overall, how we do believe we can actually bring a pretty big impact, mainly really because of the stakeholders that we work with. So our customers on one side, our brand partner on the other side. So overall, I mean, we are really looking into shaping, if you want, the next years for us in a way where collaboration is at the heart of what we do, and where we can have a real positive impact working with all our brand partners, all our customers on the other side. So probably in a way is really trying to understand how we can use our ecosystem and our platform for the better.
Very, very interesting point, Giorgia, and I guess a lot of opportunities also, as you said, for 4 million customers and hundreds of partners. It's a lot of responsibility as well. So I suppose you're doing just the right thing, moving into that direction.
Yeah, I think the key point really for us is also how we have definitely a powerful voice, let me say. So it's really understanding, and we did understand that we do have a responsibility, and we need to use our voice for the better. So that's a bit also the next action that will be on our side will definitely be, let's say, in line with this statement in a way.
That's very, very exciting, I would say. Shameek, now let's kind of moving from the basic introductions, like let's talk a little bit about the present moment. So far, over a very brief number of years, TrusTrace has managed to position itself as a leader in the supply chain and sustainability. How have your business plans for this year been impacted by the pandemic?
So there's of course it came as a shock, but I think it has also opened up many doors for us. So if I just see, so many of our customers are actually using our platform now in a very, very new ways that we had not even thought about even before pandemic. It had a very unique position that a lot of the supply chain came to stall when the pandemic hit China first. Production came down, and then they had to balance with the demand that was coming from Europe. And then suddenly it came to Europe when the suppliers started producing, and now the market then changed. So our platform then has been used by many of the brands to dynamically adjust to this new normal, as you may say, between the supply chain and the demand part of it. So this was not happening before the pandemic part of it. We have also seen many of the brands and retailers who work with us, they have taken an extra step of started to communicating with the end customer. So if you see Philippa K, Residus, Fjallraven or Phoenix Group overall, they in fact have used our platform. They have collected the data of the entire journey of the product and started sharing with the consumer, because I think the consumer is also now getting a little bit more conscientious that, hey, you know what, all this pandemic thing means that we have not been treating the planet and people properly. So I think the demand to get this information at a product level has gone up. So we are seeing increasingly more and more brands are transparently sharing it with the product information with the consumers. So this makes us a B2B2C platform now. Just rather than earlier, we were rather just a B2B platform helping the brands and the retailers there. The third thing that I think we are also seeing here is we are also the suppliers have been more proactive, that they're reaching out and saying that, can I get my profile created in your platform with all the certificate, all the information, so that I talk to more sustainable brands, because they give me a regular and much better business than just depending upon one set of brands who are only focused on cost. So we see this network effect push from the supplier side also. So I think in a way it has been good. What has not been so good is we were expecting a significant amount of business momentum in the first half of this year. Of course, the good thing is that we have not lost a single customer. So our retention rate is still 100% of customers. But I think we were thinking of winning many new deals. And as a startup, you will understand what is the value winning new deals brings. So that has not happened so much for us, but we are running at least now almost 25 new pilots with various brands. So hopefully by second half of this year, we'll catch up to some amount of that number.
Fingers crossed for that. Yeah, I believe from what I see, speaking daily with the people from the industry, both the brand side and the startup side, I think that the initial shock has passed in a way. So everybody was on hold in the first part of the year because nobody knew how this was going to evolve. But now, anyways, everybody is getting used to this kind of new situation, and we need to move on, although it hasn't been ended yet. So
yeah, and also I think there's an interesting twist which we are seeing, because people have moved to digital as a platform, and I'm sure YOOX Net-a-Porter also gets a lot of benefit because of this. They are also expecting the product information to be very rich when it comes to the sustainability part of it, because if you walk into a store, there is a store manager who can explain, okay, you know what, organic cotton means this, or GRS means this and all. Now you do not have that interface in a digital platform, so you need to explain to them a lot more, and that I think is capturing the attention of the consumers, and the products which show that kind of information get pulled significantly faster. In fact, I cannot name the retailer, but one of the retailer told us that even during COVID times, rich product information on sustainability has driven 30 to 35% higher sales velocity for those products. Wow. So that's interesting. For of course, we are providing that information, but if there's a pull in the market, it helps our business.
What you're saying is very interesting, and it makes actually a lot of sense as one of the trends that are kind of going to stay after pandemic. So you can't see how that trend could go back. Yeah. Connecting exactly to that point, and going back to what Giorgia was saying earlier about, in a way, the privileged position that a big fashion giant as YOOX Net-a-Porter is in, so kind of having a broad view of all the partners and the ecosystem. So Giorgia, how do you perceive the present situation from where you stand? And what do you foresee, exactly as Shameek was saying, as the main changes for the industry that are here to stay?
Yeah, well, for sure, I go back in what Shameek was saying around the customers. I mean, to me, the probably best thing in a way of this pandemic is that I mean, customers are really changing towards let's say sustainability, towards demanding brands to act in a way, in a more responsible way. So it's something that we were already seeing definitely before the pandemic. So if you think to, we have so we have been working on a new, let's say, strategy on sustainability, and the very first step usually is assessing, like is launching a materiality analysis that is more or less, let's say, a survey to all key stakeholders, so both internal and external. And the 2019 one versus the 2016 one that we ran in the past was completely different. So like points and themes are very much let's say niche, that like around, for example, everything related to carbon emissions and so on, as is now like top priority for customers. So we really have seen a completely different customer, let's say less September, so September 2019. And now that we are rerunning, let's say, this sort of service, we have still another is a sort of new customer again that is absolutely more conscious, and also in a bit more activist, let me say, on what they are demanding from brands, both from everything related to sustainability and environmental, let's say, sustainability, but also for what is like more social or D&I topics, for example, which is, to me, overall a good news, because this means that for sure the businesses, I mean, retailer and brands will absolutely need to do this change once for all, and I believe it will bring some good. I mean, definitely an healthier, let me say, ecosystem for, especially, I mean, in the fashion industry, but not only. So this is a bit, I mean, my hope really is with the customer that I believe at the moment are really seeing, I mean, are really requiring a change. So also the point about the increase, I mean, the sale that have increased on sustainability product that Shameek was underlying is something that we absolutely see. And this both, I mean, what I was quite pleased and what Shameek was saying is really the point on suppliers, that we are experiencing, let me say, a bit less, because for us private label is really a small percentage of the business, but we are seeing for sure an increased desire from brands to really be part of our, for example, we launched Net Sustain back in 2009 for Net-a-Porter, and at the beginning there were just, let's say, a few brands that we were able to involve, and now we have a waiting list, let's say, of brands who really want to be part of it. So
can you tell us a bit
really
more about Net Sustain? What is it?
So Net Sustain is let's say, this is sustainable edit that Net-a-Porter has launched last year, so in June 2019, and the great thing there is that we launched a full assessment of all brands and product, each single product that is listed into that edit. That is, of course, let me say, quite a big piece of work on our side. But on the other, I mean, what we really wanted to make sure is that, again, sustainability was not, let's say, used as a marketing trend or marketing play in a way, but there is some real assessment on what we communicate as sustainable in a way. So there's, let's say, a big piece of work that we are doing as back office to that, and a full, let's say, edit on a for sustainable product that with different criteria, really from local to sustainable materials and so on. And I think the great thing there is really what I really hope there is that for Net-a-Porter to really try to make sustainability as attractive as possible towards the customer, so that we can help really in also changing a bit the behaviors that are already changing, but for sure the fact that you can find beautiful and sustainable products is still, say, out there.
Yeah, I mean, definitely sustainability has gone in a few years only from niche to mainstream in a way, because just a few years ago there were brands that were just branding themselves as, I mean, that were using sustainability as the key brand driver, such as Stella McCartney, for instance. But now it needs to be embedded in each brand that wants to go forward almost.
Yes, and also I think something quite important is the fact that brands sometimes and retailers as well do believe they need to look into what they do operate, what they do specifically directly. But I think the new consciousness, let's say, around of the customer is really to push them in caring and be responsible also for what you don't operate directly. So to give you an example, everything like if you are a brand, for sure, you need to look into the supplier level and even go down, into different tiers of suppliers, or like everything that is, I mean, we might operate shipping with like suppliers and DHL, UPS, and so on. You need to care of that part as well. You need to care also about the fact that how your products in a way are used or disposed from your customers after. So I think it is really your responsibility as a brand, as supplier, has definitely changed. So which requires a lot more from a brand and retailer. But I think to at the end to really change, to extend the responsibility one of us has, and try to bring it to another level.
Yeah, connecting to that, and I see Shameek nodding actually. So exactly, I would like to stop at the point of the brands being driven and having this need now to prove themselves on the sustainability ground as well, and to do it in a right kind of way. So Shameek, TrusTrace is one of the finalists of our Fashion Innovation Award. And what struck us, and speaking to other jury members, was especially the way in which TrusTrace smartly combines AI, blockchains, and Internet of Things. Because normally we see solutions that are, I don't want to say silos, but that are either blockchain or IoT. So you found a very intelligent way of using different technologies together, and probably having 4 tech founders has helped with that, I imagine. So could you tell us in a nutshell your main selling proposition when you're speaking with brands and retailers? So how are you able to help them?
So I think one thing is that all 4 of us are engineers. So we are very poor at marketing, but we are good at finding a solution or solving the problem there. And I think what we did is that, and this is what I think we have been quite different in the market, is we just focused on fashion as an industry. We did not look at any other industry. We said that we want to make a change in the fashion industry first. It is very important when you bring any tech solution to an industry that you understand the industry context. I cannot just have a generic platform and say I have got an AI platform or a blockchain platform, and brand, you come, customize and use it. That is where the 2 gears do not meet. So we spent our time, and in fact, one of our founders comes from this textile town in southern India. So so out of the 30 employees that we have, 25 of them have come from household or backgrounds in the textile industry. So when they have grown up, they have understood what a textile loom is and all that kind of thing. So they understand these these terms very well. So what we did is that we brought this team of people, said that forget AI, forget blockchain, forget all of it. What is the industry's problem and how do I solve it? And then we started picking up some things from AI, blockchain, and all this. For example, when we went to the brands, they told us that, you know what, for me to collect this amount of data, I typically put 7 to 8 people for a brand which is only 100 million euros in revenue. Now, this is a very big cost for them. And even after putting such people, I am never confident of my data, because I may have missed some data and I make a claim to the customer and then I get lost. And then I may be sued, or maybe I may face a bad issue in the reputation loss there. So we built a platform by which we collect it, reduce the effort that the brand spends on that. We also verify and validate it using artificial intelligence and blockchain. Then that is the point when we started using these terms into the platform. And using this, now we have reduced data collection time by almost 80% there. We have improved the quality of data at least 5x for the companies that we work with. So they can confidently now go and say, so suppose when they make a claim in the store, and suppose a customer wants to know, hey, can you share me the detailed evidences behind it? The account manager just needs to log into our web page and say that, okay, this is the article number, this is the style number, and then they can download all these evidences and send it to the customer. And this turnaround can be as low as 1 hour. Instead, earlier they used to spend 1 to 2 months to get this information. So fashion focus has been, I think, the biggest strength that we have driven to. Second is supplier engagement. So we have used these technologies to make it super easy for the suppliers to put in the information, because we have to understand even tier 1 suppliers or below that, these people are not IT savvy. So they do not know how to deal with a digital platform. So we allow them to send information using emails, even WhatsApp, WeChat, and then we have integrated all of these channels into our platform, and we use software bots for it to read this information. So the supplier does not need to understand whether I am running a blockchain platform or an AI platform. They say that, okay, I have to just send this information to them. And we do not ask 200 questions in one go. We have scheduled these questions in a way that only it goes 5 questions at a time. Supplier responds to that, and then after a while we send another 5 questions. And this is all automated process. We do not have people manning this. So we have done these unique things in which the suppliers find it very easy to use our platform. And I think our presence between Europe and Asia, because whenever a supplier or a brand gets stuck, we are able to provide them almost 18/5 support. So, hey, okay, I'm not able to do that. For example, during the COVID times, so the tier 2 supplier says that, you know what, my yarn supplier is not there. How can I get this data? So then we have worked a way in which we are providing extra training to the yarn supplier, even when they are working in via phone, and giving us the information. So I think broadly, being fashion focused, being supplier, make it very easy for the suppliers to share this information. And then of course the return on investment, because you're reducing the effort and improving the data quality, has been the driver for us. In fact, just to pick on the last answer that Giorgia was mentioning regarding the net sustain. In fact, for certain retailers, we run a complete product compliance service by which they are able to onboard more brands without putting manual effort behind it. So for example,
Shameek, we should discuss then.
Absolutely, I will reach out to you, but I'm just saying, and this is a very interesting trend which has come during the COVID times, because earlier these sustainable edits used to be far and few, but now we see more and more. In fact, and I think that is lot to do with the demographics, because millennials are asking for this, and in fact millennials in their household are asking their parents, why are you not buying sustainable products? So there is a bigger trend and a bigger leap happening there, and I think we'll see many more sustainable edits. It will not be limited to 1 or 2. Maybe there will be, because I can say that, hey, I want to ensure that there is no animal in distress happening in my production. Now that becomes a very micro level edit than just calling it a sustainable product. Yeah, but
I think
overall,
that some people on the Net-a-Porter back office would be very happy to hear of you.
Absolutely,
I believe
more than
so.
happy. Yeah.
And especially, I believe really, I mean, most of the brands and retailers really have an idea to reach 2030 in. We're not talking about edits, but we are talking about full catalog of sustainable products. So I really believe what you're doing in your startup is focusing on is quite key for the next 10 years and more.
Yeah, yeah. One interesting stuff that I heard is that many of the brands with whom we work or retailers we work, they had this plan of 2030. In last 3 months itself, they have said that now that it is not 2030 goal, it is now a 2025 goal, which is so good for the people, planet, and earth kind of thing.
Absolutely. So speaking about more other things that are good for people and planet, so Giorgia, I'd like to get deeper a little bit about your current responsibility at YNAB. So you're covering two very important topics. One is sustainability. The other one, which is also coming out as a very hot topic this year, is inclusion. So could you tell us a little bit more about your strategic plans in this area and what are your corporate priorities when it comes to both? And also, besides that, if you could tell us a little bit more, how do you ensure those important issues are cascaded evenly across the organization? Because we get to meet quite a few companies that actually have this fear of kind of locking sustainability within a department, whereas actually it is a culture that needs to spread across. So if you could share a bit.
Absolutely. So probably, let's say my answer will tackle both in a way, because what we decided was for sure to go ahead with the, let's say, all the more tactical, let's say, initiatives that we were doing. So for example, Net Sustain that I discussed before, YOOX, and also that is the sustainable edit of YOOX that has been fully relaunched like for Earth Day this year. Everything related to our, let's say, packaging and packaging initiatives, the work that we have been doing, for example, with our fleet of Premier Delivery, that is, we are turning into a, let's say, green fleet globally. So I mean, all these initiatives are definitely going ahead. But on the other side, what we really wanted to make sure of, especially because also consider that YOOX Net-a-Porter is quite a complex ecosystem internally, being that we have four different brands with different brand identities and so on, was to, let's say, define a vision in a way for the entire group that could act as an umbrella for the brands also. Also because, I mean, both topics are quite heavy in, you do need expertise to tackle both topics, and we really wanted to make sure that we were really giving the right guidelines for our brands to operate in a way. So what we have been working on is a full strategy with very clear commitments, very clear targets that we will be releasing actually in the next few weeks. And a full, let me say, program, meaning like that everyone knows exactly what they will have to deliver why, when. And this, to us, is really the best way to transform. We were saying before, that we are really taking this as transformation for the group. And we believe that this is the right approach to really make sure that there is full accountability, let's say, not only for my team, let's say, and for the sustainability function, but across the group. Because I mean, realistically, this type of transformation would be impossible for us to manage in an independent way. On top of this, we are absolutely working on policies and training for the key functions. So, for example, there will be a lot of focus for us on everything that is buying and private label in the next few months. Everything that is also the marketing team, for example, because how they need to tackle the messaging on both topics, actually, both let's say sustainability and the climate crisis, for example, but also the social let's say crisis on the other, and emergency on the other side. I think it's quite important for us that the teams that have, actually, we were saying before, the big power that we do have, and especially I'm looking at Net-a-Porter and Mr. Porter with their amazing editorial capabilities. They are actually using these capabilities for the better, and really supporting the group, educating the customers that we have that are listening to us in a way. So yeah, probably I mean, to just recap a bit the answer to your question, it is really for us to have a full and dedicated program that is very much supported by both the executive committee and the Richmond group. That will really be guiding the group, but each single brand in the next 10 years, with as Shameek was saying, a lot for sure accelerated in the next few years.
Thank you very much for sharing that, Giorgia. It's a complex project.
It is, but really on the other side, also going back, I think so Shameek has talked about transparency from mainly, let's say, in the supply chain, but I think transparency is quite an important word also for everything that is related to how you do communicate, for example, versus your customer. So for us, having, let's say, a structure, if you want, a strategy and program will help us in really making sure that we do share and share progress with our customers, with our audience in general on a yearly basis. So in a way, really the program, the milestone that we are challenging ourselves to reach will be used for exactly for that, really to be as transparent as we can mainly with our customer, but also with our brand partners.
Absolutely. Going back and connecting to what Shameek was briefly saying before about certain brands shifting their goals from kind of moving them closer from 2030 to 2025. So Shameek, this year, back in January, you presented TrusTrace at the World Economic Forum in Davos. And also, like I'm sure that you had many discussions and got a feeling about kind of where things are going and what kind of commitments are being made at the top of the industry. So you already mentioned that there seems to be more urgency about this. So how do you perceive this dedication to the sustainable development goals when it comes to brands, both in fashion and in food, which I understand is your other area that you're covering?
That's right. Yeah. So I think in the last 3 years, so we started the company in 2000, end of 2016 or early part of 2017 is formally when we started here. First few years, we saw that traceability and transparency was a very, very big topic for the passionate, sustainable brands, right? And for them, they felt that this is mission critical, and they wanted traceability, they wanted transparency to achieve that. What is interesting is that in the last 6 to 8 months, we see that a similar level of urgency is also coming to the larger number of brands. So in the adoption bell curve, if you see, we have started to hitting the early majority numbers of brands who are wanting to do this, right? And they know that now if they want to start by putting people behind it, it is very difficult, and that is why they contact us to achieve that same goal there. And I think the general awareness in the market, it is not only carbon footprint, but you have to also look at holistically. There's carbon footprint, soil quality, air quality, eutrophication, biodiversity, social things like inclusion, what living wages are you paying to these people and all. So there are broadly 10, 15, 20 different parameters you have to deal with, right? This is, I think, this awareness has gone to the C-suite now. Earlier, I think people used to think that, okay, this is a job of a CSR person or maybe a production person. But nowadays, I think at a board level, the awareness has gone up. And in the World Economic Forum, it was very, very evident that the likes of BlackRock and all are pushing it from top down. So if the investors are talking about it, if the big mutual funds or funds are talking about it, of course, the boards and the C-suite will get interested. And that is when I think they give the right support to the production people, to the CSR people to make these changes. I think overall from the World Economic Forum, and of course, then accentuated by this pandemic, I think overall, a lot of C-suite people are now aware of it and giving it's the right importance. And hopefully, even after the pandemic, and this is a permanent fixture now, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty much the feeling that that many people from the industry are getting. Giorgia, earlier you mentioned actually that YOOX Net-a-Porter just recently celebrated its 20th anniversary, and interestingly, as you were mentioning before, your career has almost completely coincided with it and has been a part actually of that rich history of almost a startup company growing into a big multi-billion company. So if you could put in a nutshell, like how have you seen this evolution over the past 2 decades, and what's in next for YOOX Net-a-Porter? What's the key focus?
It has definitely been, let me say, a roller coaster in a way. It's been, I mean, a continuous change. I mean, no moment for sure to stop, which is, I would say, the beauty of it. So I really joined, like, I think it was January 2006, and we were probably 90 people, and we are 5,500 people now. So it's definitely another company, but for sure, what is still very much there, I have to say, is this desire for all my colleagues around innovation, I think, on one side, and do whatever we do for something bigger than us. So for sure, for a better planet, and to really make sure that people overall are happier and healthier. So, I mean, overall, I think what the key thing that I've been mainly really following are the changes around customers, but also the ever evolving customer in terms of also how they change drastically, how they are using digital and e-commerce. So in 2000, when both YOOX and Net-a-Porter launched, I think it was quite a challenge for everyone to think that a luxury customer could actually buy from their mobile, as we had, I mean, were, let me say, very much spoiled in going face to face in retail stores and so on. So that was, I think, a huge mission that both companies had, and that were able to actually deliver on quite successfully, changing really in industry. So probably with this same mindset, I would love to see the next wave and next step. That is, I mean, also now I think there's quite a big challenge in front of us, not only YOOX and Net-a-Porter, but in general. And I'm quite curious to see how YOOX and Net-a-Porter on one side, but also all other key players will really tackle this big challenge that we have in front of us. I mean, specifically for YOOX Net-a-Porter, we've done some internal celebration for the 20th anniversary, and that is mainly, let's say, focused on the past, present, and future. And the full, let's say, focus on future is really on the launch of our new strategy of sustainability and inclusion. So this, in a way, make really me hope for a full dedication by every single person in the organization to really make their bit to advance us and accelerate on this topic.
Thank you very much, Giorgia, for sharing that. We're looking forward to getting and to learning more about the new strategy soon once it's launched. Wrapping our discussions slowly, and we have a couple more questions for both of you. So Shameek, I think that you have, like what you mentioned before about 4 engineers deciding to make changes in the fashion industry, and you guys kind of sitting down and kind of breaking it down and learning actually what is the focus of the industry in order to help it best. So I find it as a great advice for people entering the fashion tech industry, because from what I've seen, people come with a lot of assumptions of like, yeah, brands will want this, customers will want this, but actually, unless you really understand and go deep, then maybe you are just wasting your time. So from your experience so far, what advice would you give to aspiring B2B fashion tech entrepreneurs that are trying to enter the industry?
I think first of all, we have to be humble and modest to understand that these problems are very big problems. I think one startup or one company is not here to make a change to this. We should not assume that I have a super meal and everybody will come and just latch onto it. I think we have to make that effort to understand the root problems in these industries and then customize the solution to those needs. Make it very, very approachable, easy, and simple for people to use it. Uh, because people really get shut off by hearing the word AI and blockchain, and this, oh, this is something to do with very, very difficult things. We absolutely should avoid that. We have to make it very, very easy for people to understand, and we have to be very humble in this whole pursuit. The other thing, I think, never let go of the big picture. While you want to, you on a daily basis, you will have multiple problems, but you are here to make a big change in the industry, and you are collaborating and cooperating with a lot of people, but your end goal has to be very, very clear. That for example, for us, we want to ensure that people, planet, and profit coexist, and we have a positive globalization about it, right? That is what is driving us. So we will never let go of that big picture. Yes, today we are doing traceability. Tomorrow there will be bigger challenges. We will try to solve those also there. I think broadly, if we want to keep this two things, and then of course technology, lack of talent, all that is there. But if these two broad principles are there in your mind, that be humble, be modest, and never let go of the big picture, I think you will be able to find a place in the industry.
Thank you very much. That's really insightful. Giorgia, how does that play with how you see the industry? I guess you see a lot of innovation and a lot of people kind of proposing different solutions to you and approaching you. So, kind of, what are the startups that leave a good impression on you?
Well, I think overall I'm very much with Shameek on this, being that sometimes there are many now. For sure, there are some very good ones, and I mean, my hope is that really, as a retailer, we will be able to collaborate as much as possible with these, let's say, young minds in a way. On the other side, I feel a bit what Shameek was saying about the, I mean, sometimes missing. Being humble a bit. That to me is sometimes really a lot about listening. So one of the first exercises that I really always suggest to, I mean, some startups I talk about to support them a bit is really listening to customers, to retailers, to brands as much as possible to really understand where the problem is. And on the other side, I think was very interesting the point that Shameek made before about the startup that is made mainly of people who come from textiles industry. That I think is another key point that goes hand in hand, I mean, realistically, with listening or really understand in detail where the problem is. Because sometimes, I mean, my experience is that there are some quite interesting solutions that, however, are not quite there or are great in terms of idea, but potentially not that great in terms of real application. So, and this really goes into making sure that the product is what people need. So it might be the final customer, might be a brand or a retailer, but make sure that if you want product management of it is really well tested also before, I mean, proposing to brands or so on, or make sure that you can potentially grow with a brand or a retailer. That is what I mean, many startups are experiencing now, and I think also Shameek did. So it really goes back into, to me, the listening piece and the understanding in depth. The problem is quite key, because otherwise the risk is that we really see many startups out there, but then there's no probably the right change that we want to envision.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, the latest data that looks into why startups fail. The first reason is always that there is no product market fit. and definitely understanding that market is plays a big part in the success. Bringing our discussion to a close, Shameek, we have spoken a lot about like the past few months, like how people are changing, how brands are shifting, and customers as well, their behavior. So just going through the media, we have heard quite a few worrying voices that the pandemic might prove as a setback to sustainability. We are hearing more and more optimism also that actually the pandemic is going to be an accelerator in a way for sustainability. So in your view, how do we ensure that sustainability remains high on the agenda?
I think that is my hope. My belief is that it is now a bigger trend. I think we all as individuals, I think during the pandemic have become more mindful of our activities. We know what matters, family matters, things like we really love, and we want to take care of our environment. And I think this mindful extension should be seen in the food fashion world very soon. I think even when we are going and buying things nowadays, I think hopefully we are not buying too much and wasting things. I think all such activities are coming, and I see sustainability to be a continuation of that similar mindfulness. That if you're mindful about your environment, about your family, about the planet Earth, I think you will be generally be very, very sustainable and very, very responsible in your approach. And I think this is a wake-up call to the whole humanity that we are too many, and we are misusing the Earth's resources and the, in fact, social resources also very, very badly. As I come from India, and the societal impact that it has happened, that has had this pandemic has had on the society. In fact, also if you take across Southern Europe, right, we all should be very, very humble in accepting that the mother nature is much more powerful, so we should not take it for granted.
Absolutely. Giorgia, I saw you nodding, so I'm sure that you will agree very much with this kind of thought.
Yes, I believe actually customers will be the one reminding us in a way that we need to really keep the focus quite high on these topics now. So really my hope in a way is with customers and their changing behaviors. Then, I mean, realistically, what we are seeing is not only for retailers and what the, new generation, and I'm thinking to Gen Z, are really pushing companies to tackle, but also what they are asking governments to tackle. So in a way, really, my hope is that the new generations will be the one really pushing the harder, and that companies, as we are seeing, and retailers, brands, and so on, as well as governments, will be maybe a bit slow, let's say, but really following and changing their practices in general. So I'm quite, I have to say, hopeful, and I've been seeing really in the also last few weeks from all the campaigns that I've raised after COVID or Black Lives Matter, for example. I mean, I think everything that, if we think how Greta in a way changed, so I always explain the change in the materiality that I mentioned before, saying Greta happened in a way. So I really believe that new generation will help us, let's say, accelerate much quicker everything that probably we already had in plan, but new generation along with COVID, hopefully we have in a way ring the bell to everyone, as Shameek was saying a bit. So really my hope is with customers and young generations.
Thank you very much. So customer centricity remains your focus, Giorgia, in any
always.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Shameek and Giorgia. I think it was a lovely discussion. I think you opened up many very important points. Obviously, we're not able to go deeper into that, but I think that you gave a lot of food for thought to aspiring entrepreneurs, but also for the people working with brands and the industry in general. So I'm sure I learned quite a few new things today. So thank you for that, and I'm sure that also for our audience it will be stimulating. So for all of you watching us, I'll be bringing a couple of more discussions like this to our LinkedIn profile. So make sure you follow Loomish Essays LinkedIn. So we'll do a couple of other discussions before the end of before the beginning of the summer. So please stay tuned if you want to follow fashion sustainability and discuss the crisis impact on it. Everyone have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Jelena.
Thanks for
Thank you,
listening.
Shameek.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.